I'm Inspector Lance Parker with the Edmonton Police Organized Crime Branch. Thank you for joining us today to speak about the significant drug seizure made by our gang suppression team, also known as GST. As outlined in the media release in September of 2023, our officers initiated an investigation into a male suspect who was believed to be involved in drug trafficking. This investigation culminated in a traffic stop with the suspect on Friday, October 27th, 2023. As a result of that traffic stop, 40.5 kilograms of cocaine was located in his vehicle and the suspect was subsequently arrested. The approximate street value of the cocaine is $1.8 million. 40-year-old Randhir Singh Gill was charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking in relation to this investigation. This 40.5 kilogram seizure was the largest single location seizure of cocaine in Edmonton Police Service history. The largest seizure prior to this was a 28 kilogram seizure in August of 2013. Although an arrest has been made in this file, the investigation into the source of the drugs has not concluded. We are continuing to work with our law enforcement partners both in Canada and in the United States as we attempt to determine the source of these illicit drugs. The primary focus of our GST team is interdiction, which refers to maintaining a presence in and around organized crime, figures, and groups within our city through enforcement and regular interactions. While drugs are not the primary focus of GST, an arrest like this really showcases the investigative diversity that this team possesses. As the inspector in charge of the Organized Crime Branch, I oversee GST as well as our Firearms Investigations Unit, the Edmonton Drug and Gang Enforcement Unit, and the Financial Crime Section. Most of the files that we investigate involved organized crime to some degree. We are consistently working towards disrupting the activities of these groups, and a seizure like this, like the one we are highlighting today, will help to do that. I'm now prepared to answer any questions and have Staff Sergeant Eric Stewart with me today, who is in charge of the Guns and Gangs section.
Hi, Adam Zaccarelli, City News. Was it all found in one vehicle, and is there a location that is associated with the bust?
So all the drugs that you see on the table here were located in the vehicle during a vehicle stop, and there was no location associated to the vehicle stops.
Is there a concern that there might be a bigger issue, gang or organization related with this big of a bust?
That's always been the concern. As of this Sunday, I will highlight that we're going to have a second GST team that's been put in place, and so we'll have 7-day week coverage starting on Sunday.
Mike Darren with Global. I just want to get a clarifying question here. So this was not like a random traffic stop. This was something that's been investigated for quite a while with this person, or how did we go about this traffic stop?
Yeah, so an investigation was initiated back in September, but this wasn't just a random traffic stop, no.
And I guess are you able to break down in terms of what it takes for the GST team to investigate something like this?
Sure, maybe I'll let Staff Sergeant Eric Stewart answer that question.
There's no particular, the investigative steps to investigate an investigation like this is standard amongst our organized crime branch. The same steps that the game suppression team would take is the same as our Edmonton Drug and Gang team would take, or our firearms investigation units. There's nothing in particular that was unique about the investigative steps in this. It's just we operate on intelligence, and we work from there and investigate properly. I would do it that way. So.
Hi, Cindy Chan with the Edmonton Journal. This might be a silly question, but what do you do with this amount of cocaine after it's been seized?
So the investigation hasn't stopped, as I alluded to earlier. I guess the next step is to figure out where the origin of the cocaine, and we'll be working with our United States partners in law enforcement. And that's the next step on this, is just trying to figure out the origin of where the cocaine came from.
And are you able to tell us anything with regards to preliminary investigation, maybe involvement with gangs in Edmonton right now?
Again, I'll let Staff Sergeant Eric Stewart speak to this. He has some.
What we can tell you is when you're dealing with the sophistication and this type of drug seizure, it definitely involves organized crime. There is sophistication behind it. We won't reveal too much intelligence on the individual and his ties to organized crime, but typically when you're looking at this type of level of drug seizure, organized crime is involved when you get involved in this.
Thank you.
Hi. Can you speak to sort of the branding of this and what it tells you? Are you familiar with it? Point of origin, if you are familiar with it, and what it says to the buyer, I guess?
Yeah, I can't speak to the brand. We've just noticed in all the seizures over my time in law enforcement, the origin is branded, and it has no significance as far as what the branding, like the picture you see on the outside of these kilogram of cocaine. So to figure out the origin, that's where we really have to rely heavily on our international partners like the United States, and that to try to figure out where the stamping and where this actually came from. So it's going to take a little bit of investigation to figure that out as far as the origin. So
I can get a follow-up. Have you seen that before then?
I have not seen this trademark on on the cocaine like this before. No.
When it comes to street drugs, you hear about meth, you hear about opioid. It's not very often you hear about a cocaine bust of this magnitude. What does that say about the situation in the city right now when it comes to drugs?
Well, I think we've seen that there is an issue with drugs in the city of Edmonton, and we're trying to combat that with, forming some new teams and trying to, again, this was just an investigation. At the time, during the investigation, they knew what drugs that were coming, that possibly this person had, but just based on the intelligence, this is just what the investigation led to. That doesn't mean that we're not looking at all the other types of controlled substances, whether it be meth or fentanyl or heroin or just whatever. So this is just what this investigation led to.
I guess just another follow-up question in the sense of following this bus and even just busts that you've done in the past, is there any, I'm just following the question in terms of just like concerns in the city, is there any message that you want the public to know?
Well, we all know just with the amount of controlled substances that are in the city of Edmonton, along with this line of work, violence follows along with it. So that's a concern, is the violence that is related to the drug trafficking, the drug use within the city of Edmonton. So that's what we're concerned with, is the amount of violence that is associated to this kind of illegal activity. Does that answer your question?
Okay, good morning, Inspector. The drugs we see in front of us, do they represent drugs that are ready to distribute, or are they typically cut from this part? Like, does this expand on what we see here, or is this pretty much ready to go?
It can. Obviously, the level that you see here is kind of the mid to higher level as far as the drug trafficking goes. It's the scale, but this can easily be broken down into the half-gram level and then sold at the street level. So what you see here is if you broke it down, it'd be 100 times what the value we just talked about because of how small they could break this down to. So this is ready to be sold at this level, and then they can start breaking it down to get it to the street level. So it is ready for distribution.
And Steve, could you allow me one last one? So, Inspector, just you talked about where this has come from, and you're investigating that. But where does it go from here? Is Edmonton a stopping off point? Is there a pipeline that goes from here somewhere else?
It could. It's just like with travel with the city of Edmonton, we are the gateway to the north. So with that travel goes along our drug trade. So I would suggest that this was not all destined for the city of Edmonton, but could have been destined for smaller communities since we are the gateway to the north.